Howdy, and welcome to the Feed Bandit podcast, where we talk all things hunting and introduce you to the most innovative hunting gear and services. Here are your hosts, Jimmy Byrne and Richard Kinchlow. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Feed Bandit podcast. Jimmy here, and as always, I'm joined by the Corn Bandit, Richard. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
That was my flounder hello from Animal House. Great movie.
Flounder. Oh, yeah, Flounder.
Flounder, when he goes, hello. Fat, stupid, and drunk. There's no way to go to school.
Well, you're going to love this. You know, have you ever read the book?
Yeah. God, I hate that.
It's one of the funniest books I've ever read.
No, I've read it.
And the book,
well,
you have. Okay, well then know. I mean, the movie can't hold a candle to what they did in the actual book.
No, it's G-rated. I mean, some of the stuff they
G-rated.
did, I don't know.
It'd be like triple X rated.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The movie is.
Oh, compared, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I tonight got done eating a deer heart.
Did you?
It was phenomenal.
Which one?
You had two. It's a good segue into tonight's podcast.
Oh, but before we do that, so here's the thing, and you know me, I'm kind of a bee, and I wasn't really involved in tonight's podcast story.
You mean the subject?
The subject, because I was many miles away, but I do want to toot my own horn. Guess what this kid got to do past Friday and Saturday night? That's right, folks. Oh yeah. Everybody was casting stones at me like I was a sodomite. And they said, oh, boo, you go bird hunt. And I said, now, you know what? I'm going to let them cast their stones, and I'm going to turn it into bird pounding fuel. And sure enough, I limited out. Unbelievable. Texas Parks and Wildlife a couple of years ago extended the season, at least in our zone, which I think we're the central or north.
Dove season.
The north dove season, excuse me, yes. And so sure enough, Friday night, I was speechless. There were so many dove when I showed up. It was over some sunflower. And again, all migratories. We got ducks coming in, geese, cranes, all that. They're all migratory birds. There are so many dove when I showed up. And I literally drove in from Dallas, dropped the kids and the wife off, and emptied all my gear in the house, got in one of our vehicles, hauled ass out there. I shot 8 dove in my loafers because they were everywhere, and I couldn't even speak. I mean, I wish I could have recorded myself because the noises coming at me sounded like I was like digesting something. It was amazing. But I did shoot the limited dove, and then the following night, Saturday, I killed 6 more. And got to go hunt with my dad and my oldest daughter. It was really, really cool. So, anyways, that's really all I have to contribute to this podcast besides some questions. But I just want to let all of our listenership know that it's amazing, and you just got to keep hoping. You got to keep the faith that you're going to live out.
And the reason why remind people why you're saying it like you are. You know, I mean, tell them about the rest of the season. So
right. Well, that's very true.
We may have new listeners that haven't heard.
That's true. Yeah. So the 2018 dove season. I mean, Noah's Ark showed up about halfway through September, and we had torrents and torrents of rain. And when you hunt over water, it was totally scrapped. So we basically stopped dove hunting in the middle of September. Well, this year we definitely had some rain, but it was dry, and the birds were definitely hitting water. We had some sunflower. So it was a hell of a lot better season this year. But the problem was I couldn't really go in October, and I was really upset. I'd cry, counseling, all that kind of stuff. Stupid soccer games. Anyway, that's a long story.
Rocking in your fetal position.
Yeah, oh God, it was awful. It's absolutely terrible. And just to go and to have a hunt like that, a day before it ends, it's crazy. It's a really good time. So,
well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we were going back real quick to the guy who cast the stone. You know who cast the first stone? It's our own Jimmy right here. He done cast the first stone. He said, "Why are you going out there and going bird hunting? You should be deer hunting."
Yeah,
And when
true.
I came back with a bunch of birds, he was jealous. He cried.
No, well, not that far.
Yeah, I mean,
well, what do they say about a broken clock? It's something, I don't know. But anyway,
2 in the bags, more 4 in the bush.
something like that.
Okay. Oh, and this officially marks the longest intro we've ever had. Yeah. So
well, it's right up there, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, anyways, that's me, Selfish Richard, out.
Well, getting back to the dove heart that I cooked for myself tonight.
Oh, yes.
It was amazingly tasty, as they always are. I have a pretty good recipe that I go by, and I actually documented on the Feed Bandit website. So if anyone's interested, go to feedbandit.com/heart, and it'll take you right to that recipe. But just for everyone out there, if you're the kind of person, and most people are, so I can't hold it against you. Most people that I hunt with are like this. But if you're the kind of person that only gets all the the nice, beautiful, regular red meat around the deer and everything, but ignores the body cavity, then you're missing out. Especially with the heart of the deer. I believe, and I've come to be convinced, that the heart is, if cooked properly, is the tastiest cut that you can take out of a deer. No question about it. And I know what you're saying. That you're saying you're calling BS on it, but I'm being dead serious. So check out that recipe or that cooking that I documented at feedbandit.com/heart, and you'll follow it to the T, and I believe you'll agree with me. It's awesome. And I finally convinced old Corn Bandit here to let me cook it for him, and he'll actually try it. Because at the beginning, whenever I mentioned
are we doing that this weekend?
Well, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay, because it can't coincide with the Tech West Virginia game because I'll throw up everywhere. I mean, I got double reasons.
No, don't knock it till you try it. Don't knock it till you try it. Anyone listening, don't knock it till you try it because it is actually pretty dang good. Anyway, check out that recipe. As far as this weekend, I will not be cooking a heart this weekend because I actually ate the other one last night.
God, did you really? Oh my God! You gotta start eating.
Oh man! But no, I mean they're really good. But tonight, I purposely saved a particular heart because I wanted to have it in my system when we ended up talking about our topic tonight, and that is a successful little hunt I had with one of our good buddies, Rich, who's on the phone with us tonight. Hey, Rich, you still there?
Hi guys, how are you?
Well, pretty good. We had a pretty fun little adventure on Saturday evening, did we not?
We did. I got to tell you, first off, though, I got to say, tears. I didn't see any tears coming out of Jimmy's eyes unless you count the beer, drop the beer going down his throat. That's tears, then maybe. But Richard, I can't say I saw him crying at all about your
Wow.
But
I tell you what.
It was a nice haul, and you were generous enough to share. So thank you.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about. God, I'm a good guy. Hey, you guys smelled really bad when you got back, by the way. Just to throw that out there.
Well, we had, like I said, Rich and I had an interesting adventure. This weekend, what we noticed, or really, I guess, maybe starting a week before or whenever, some of the guys that went down to Rancho Bandito to hunt some deer were noticing that the deer really weren't wanting to come into the feeders much at all. We were seeing that, the oak trees around had a bumper crop of acorns. A plethora of acorns. And, man, they were just hanging out around the oak trees, under the oak trees. I mean, you drive by a big oak tree, you see several deer down there. And we noticed, that trend continued, I guess, Friday and into Saturday morning. It was kind of difficult. But also the other factor that was going about was the rut, had begun.
It's a little. I mean, it's a little free. It's a little.
I think
free.
it's what. Remember maybe that split one we talked about in that previous podcast.
Yeah. No,
it was. I mean, both time I sat, they were chasing with drool coming out of their mouths and fighting. When I sat at.
Well, think about it, dude. When we used to go to a bar, we did the exact same thing. That was year round.
That's true. Well, when I saw them really fighting, it was Saturday morning. So man, they must have stayed up all night.
Yeah, there's no way, dude. I totally understand. Oh, and just talking about the acorns real quick, and throw in something real quick. The hogs were a no-show this weekend too.
Well, except for Friday night.
You're right, except for Friday night, which is beyond bizarre why he showed up where he did. But
let me tell you that story just real quick.
Yeah.
So I was sitting at one of our outlying blind and feeders, and we had filled it up, set the timer and everything. Maybe a month ago. So I was hoping that there'd still be some corn and stuff in there. So when I went out there, I sat there and beautiful evening. It was great sitting out there, and I kept wondering, I missed the feeder going off. I don't know. I didn't hear it or anything. And but luckily enough, about 5:30, a big boar walks in. And so obviously I dispatched him, but when I went to check it, the feeder was completely empty.
That's
it was bone dry.
By the way.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, why is this guy even coming in here? There's other places to go. So no, I had to dispatch him on Friday night. So yeah, that is Tyson luck. I finally had a piece of it.
Yeah, but you didn't save the meat.
That is true. But what were you going to say about acorns?
No, I was just going to say the hogs. The hogs were almost a no-show as well, and that's crazy. Yeah. In fact, one of the fears we go to was when you want to shoot a hog, you end up going here. I was told that the corn was starting to stack up, which is crazy.
Oh, it was, yeah. It was even stacked up under the Gonzalez feeder.
God, really?
From back, I could tell that it emptied itself probably maybe half a week to a week ago, but it was still stacked down there. So that's how much no one cared to go there.
Wow.
Same at I drove around. Same in the back at the at the Rancho Bandito.
Yeah.
Stacked up. And anyway, but no, really to get to this the reason why we have Rich on tonight, tell the story of what went on. We think, hopefully there's some good lessons to be learned, lessons I learned myself. I'm still obviously learning, so, some things that we want to point out and whatnot. But just to lay the groundwork here, continue laying the groundwork, because we knew or we had a feeling that deer really weren't going to the blinds, we thought, we need to get out of the blind and work our way around the ranch, looking for... essentially taking ourselves to the deer, and that's what Rich and I decided to do. So I don't know. You want to start talking about it, Rich? What was going through your head?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, pretty much what my buddy Dave and I call safari hunting. Shout out to Dave there. Yeah, no, we were driving around and they were jumping out all in front of us, right? I mean, 3 or 4 groups of 3 or 4 up to 6 at sometimes. So
well, you made a great analogy. I think we were sitting on one of the hills down the power line, and what did you say? It was like Big Buck Hunter or something. How they're going past each other, left to right.
It felt like we were in a video game because they just kept coming across the road and trails and just jumping out from everywhere. That is exactly what I said. I said it's like a video game. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just driving around seeing. I mean, we saw probably. I mean, geez, I don't know. I mean, all together, I would say, 30, 40, 50 deer. It was a lot of damn deer, especially in the distance if you count all those total. And I was the driver initially, so Rich was riding shotgun, and so he could jump out and get on a deer if we saw one, and so we just were driving around seeing what we could see, and we stopped a couple times, to have some good conversation. We got into little politics, and that was fun. Have you thought any more about the things I brought up?
I don't think we solved a single problem.
No problems were solved. But no, I mean, we drove around probably, stopping places to sit and wait here and there for at least a good probably hour until we were really, onto some where we had some in our, in our sights.
Easily an hour. I mean, we left the house, 3:45, 4.
Right.
So, and I think when we actually shot, it was about an hour and 15 minutes till last light, something like that.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. So, I mean, maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours. And, it's interesting when you're kind of driving around, and looking because, you're wanting to, you don't shoot indiscriminately, right? So you have kind of that added sense of, well, when you see them, you need to kind of, get out and make sure they're not spooked by you, get set up to be able to, to get the deer. But at the same time, you got to be running your checks, or going through your progressions, as they say in football, right? To make sure that is a good management deer. Richard, you got anything to say along those lines?
Oh yeah, no, it's tough. It's real tough. It kind of brings back, the reason why we've got feeders, is being able to kind of, to really identify. But when you're safari type hunting, like you say, you got to be able to spot a deer, get out, make a decision very quickly, and try to, put that animal down. It's definitely not easy. The other thing is, besides not only trying to put the animal down, but it's trying to identify what's in the background. There could be a prize bull over in the next pasture, an old Jibo keels over with this 30-06 in his gullet, and you're in deep, what. But, yeah, it's not easy. It's tough.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, Jimmy, along the lines of what you're saying, I mean, tell them about the one you passed on and why.
Oh. Hey, hold on one quick moment. Hey folks, have you ever wished that there was an easier way to find the hunting feeds, supplies, and services you need, when and where you need them? If so, check out our hunter search at feedbandit.com, where you can see what hunting suppliers are in your area or are on the way to your land. Don't waste any more precious time searching Google or calling around for feed, blinds, feeders, or even outfitters. Just use our targeted search for hunters, the Feed Bandit Hunter Search, over at feedbandit.com. We'll find your feed. The one that was right there to the left, that was really close.
Yeah, you have to be, like you say, you got to be discriminate. Sometimes it's even awkwardly discriminate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I got out, I had one right there in my crosshairs, but, it's tough when they're like 25 yards away, It's actually sometimes easier when you see them at 100 yards to be able to, identify them and compare them to the other deer that are around, because it's like, the depth perception along the lines of the size of their bodies and all that, it's really tough to be able to do that. So, I thought it might have been a good one, but I didn't want to be biased by the difference in distance there. I'm not a bow hunter, so a bow hunter probably is a lot better at that. Being used to being a lot closer, whereas mine, my perception is a lot farther. 100 yards, 150 yards, maybe even 200 yards to be able to identify it. In that sense,
well, and it brings up a good point. If you've gotten within 25 yards in a motorized vehicle of a deer, that deer either's got Helen Keller syndrome or it's probably extremely young. You're not going to see a big old Nana doe hang around, with some motorized vehicle with two Yahoos in it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's rare. Well, that's only happened once.
You should have just shot her so we could test. Like, oh nope, she's fun. We were wrong.
Well, I'm still pretty sure that she was a good one, but
I mean, it could be.
She did look like a good one, and gosh, I mean, Jimmy, you had your gun up twice.
Yeah.
I think you like had it up and like pulled it down and then put it back up again and looked at me and I'm like, I don't know. And you're like, yeah.
And usually when I'm like that, I just say, no, I'll
Yeah,
wait.
that's not like I even said. That's not like you. That's not like you. You're like a cold-blooded killer usually. Or harvester.
Yes, a cold-blooded yet discriminate harvester. Right.
That's right.
But yeah, we saw that one, and so we got back in the car, and we are in the vehicle, and we're driving a little further, and we kept seeing some pretty decent ones here and there, although they were getting spooked a little more, right? I mean, remember the one that I thought was probably the best one that we saw, but unfortunately, going back to what Richard was saying, the background, what if the bullet happens to miss or whatever? You want to talk about that one?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that one, if I remember, I actually got out of the vehicle, came around the other side, and was using the back of the vehicle as a perch to get a good stance. And it was just you kind of mentioned to me, hey, I don't know, man. I said, should I go or not? And he said, I don't know, but the background, right? Because there's a road there, and so we decided not to pull the trigger at that time.
Yeah, that doe was boy, was she lucky. Maybe, she looked great, so she was old. Maybe she knew what she was doing. She was like, well, I'm kind of caught here, so if I position myself strategically right here with that road behind me, these guys will be smart enough not to pull the trigger. Maybe that's what she was gambling on. Who knows? But yeah, she lucked out.
Maybe a little taunting. Maybe.
Maybe that too. But no, after that, I think we ended up driving a little bit. I don't know, maybe another 15 minutes or so. But we caught a glimpse of several groups in the distance. I mean, they were probably, when we're on top of that ridge there by the power lines.
We were up. I was going to say we came all the way up to the top of the ridge, and we had I'd say a good 240-degree view, 180, 240, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And so we had a group off to the left and down the power line, moving right to left.
Right. And we were looking at those does, and I swear there are several in there that are really good. So we got back in the vehicle pretty quickly and tried to make our way down there, as stealthily as we possibly can in that vehicle. And we got down there, and sure enough, we rolled up, and about I'd say maybe 200 yards away, there they were crossing the road. You want to take it from there with what happened?
Yeah, I mean they went across right to left, and it was a quick decision. It was like kill the engine, let's stop. And kind of rolled forward another, foot or two, and next thing you know it, we're like, okay, now what? Let's just wait. We didn't have to wait long. It was maybe 15 seconds later, and who knows what it was? Probably a buck in rutting chased them back right, and here comes one right back across right away. And I was in a perfectly positioned kind of over the windshield of the vehicle. Next one came out, and you pretty much said the second one, the one in the middle, and there's a third behind it. And so they started moving left to right. And they were moving. They maybe had 5 or 10 seconds where they stopped, and I aimed up and fired, and we had a good hit. At least, I mean, heat of the moment, I fired. I turned to you. I said, "Did I get it?" And you had binoculars on it, right?
Yep. Oh, yep. I had the binoculars on her, and she did that characteristic kind of jump hop in a way, and it looked like she did. She tried to kind of like, how sometimes they'll like act like they're kicking the bullet away or something, just a real quick kind of like jump hop and kick, and then she kind of jogged off to the right. But on the right, if you remember, I mean, there was some. I guess were they mesquite trees or something to where she kind of went behind them, and we're like, okay, well, I mean, I knew you hit her. Like, I mean, there was no question about it. Characteristic, hit and jump, and but the problem was we were in a position where we didn't see her go down, right?
Yeah, so we were kind of still up a little high, heading down the power line, down lower. They were down below. And then there was an uphill beyond them. So it was a perfect shot. I mean, probably the safest shot you could make. But yeah, I mean, it was tough to see. It was tough to judge distance. And yeah, she ran off. So we just decided let's sit here, let's wait. But did we wait long enough? I don't know.
Right. And, and I know you had trouble seeing them, but I was able to see the group that she was with kind of stop about, I would say, maybe 50 to 75 yards to the right behind some mesquite trees there, and they're just kind of sitting there. And for what I've seen before, when that happens, is I was thinking, okay, well, she ran off kind of behind those trees and laid down right there. Maybe she's, doing a little death throw or doing something, dying there. But the deer were looking, sitting there and just kind of looking at her. I've seen that happen, a lot before. So I figured, okay, we're all right, because they just stayed there. They didn't do like even after you shot, they kind of jogged her right there and didn't do like a massive sprint off, into the distance like they do sometimes when you miss or you put one down and the rest of them just kind of sprint off. So I was thinking, oh, okay, this should be a quick roundup, and be on our way. So. And
then on our way towards possibly the next one.
That's right.
Maybe.
That's right.
Get Jimmy one. All I was thinking was, all right, I got mine out of the way. Let's get Jimmy one. I'll drive, and Jimmy will take the shotgun, right? So.
Right. So we stayed there, or we sat there and waited. I don't know. What do we wait? 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes at the most. And it was my call to go and try to find her, because seeing all the characteristics, I thought that she probably would have been down and dispatched, at the in that area, about at that time, because at that point the other deer had walked off. That's I forgot to say that. Yeah, that group of deer had walked off. So we had eyes on them, and they were down one doe. So one doe was not in that group. So okay, so let's go. So we drove up to about the point at where he shot her, and that's probably maybe going that soon is, I would say, my mistake, number one in this scenario. But number two is the big one, and where we went, and I thought I knew just where she was. And we really didn't stop where he shot her and look for blood on the ground right there to make sure that he didn't miss.
Let me interject real quick. If you see the telltale hop, that is a great indicator that you've hit something fatal. It just is bizarre that
most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah, clearly. You would have thought where the bullet would have hit, they would have had a different reaction. So I don't blame you.
But we haven't revealed that yet.
No, I know. That's why I didn't do it.
Okay.
Don't spoil that.
Don't spoil. But yeah, no. So we just figured, gosh, she's got to be right there, right?
Well, and you're right. We should have walked the actual power line trail first, and we didn't do that. But
right. But we jumped out, and another part of it was the land right there is very much kind of prairie, so there's not as much. It's not very thick with cedars at all, at least right where he shot her, and it was really just mesquite trees there. There's like one or two cedars kind of in that area, at least right in that immediate part. And so another part I was figuring was, well, we'll be able to see her laying down pretty easily. The sun was still high in the sky at this point. So I was like, okay, let's go. So we jump out, and I think you stayed to look for blood, right, Rich?
Well, you kind of went off. If from the vehicle, I would say we did a V. You went left on the left V, and I went on the right side V, and kind of went off that way. And eventually, we just kind of turned to each other. After 10 minutes of just walking around our kind of line in the V, and I kind of, hey, anything? No, nothing. No blood. All right.
Yeah, it was crazy, and obviously looking under the trees, because where they typically go to lay down and die, that type thing, and I was just amazed she wasn't right there. I was like, what in the heck? Because we didn't see, we saw like 4 doe and we only saw 3 go off. So she had to be somewhere. Had to be somewhere there, like every blind. And then, let's see, I think you went back. Didn't you walk back to start looking for blood?
No, you called me. You said, "Well, here, come on over here." Is what you said.
Okay.
And I started walking towards you.
Yes.
It was right about that time. Right.
Right about that time is when I did not have my pistol or my rifle with me, and right about that time,
that was actually mistake number 2.
Yeah, you're right. Well, there was this shadow. I mean, it's amazing that how this worked. I guess it was from that first big cedar tree, and it was a shadow over the ground right there, the prairie kind of ground right there. And walking, and all of a sudden, bam! She gets up out of that spot right there. It's like, how did we miss her? She gets up and kind of limps off. Right? I mean, she's not sprinting like a normal deer would or anything. So I'm like, okay, well, we watch her kind of go to the top of the ridge, and there's a big kind of pile of old cedars that have been cut down and piled up there, and she goes right to the side of that pile and stops. But I mean, as she was walking, we could see that. Yeah, I mean, she's fatally wounded. It's just a matter of It was just a matter of like, okay, well, did we wound her fatally enough? I mean, because at this point now we're like, oh crap, we want to put her out. I mean, we want to be able to get her, find her, and really put her down if it wasn't, heart, lung, or, a critical shot. So we sat there and we're like, okay, we see her, and then she kind of goes over the ridge. So we're like, well, crap.
Yeah, pretty much. Oh crap. Now what?
Yes. Yeah. Take it.
You went back to the vehicle, and I started walking towards where she was. Right?
Yeah, because it looked like she was just gonna fall down. Basically, I mean, it was, she was in bad shape. So yeah, you do that. I walk back to the vehicle, and then I get it, and I drive up, kind of catch up with you, and then you take it kind of from there.
Well, I kind of gave you the closed fist, like hold up. And I was standing there, and maybe 50 yards away, there's 3 or 4 doe. Probably 2 of them are shooters. And you walked all the way over. You stopped the vehicle and had started walking to me already. So I gave you the closed fist, like hold up. And then I gave you the, hey, come on over. You walked all the way over to me, and we literally stood there and stared at 3 other does that probably 1 at least, maybe 2 were shooters.
Yeah.
And
they may have been her friends. Yeah.
It was tempting.
It was tempting, but we were like, well, shit, we got to find this deer, So, so we had to pass on those trophies. But no, I mean, from there, we were kind of at the top or over the ridge, and we didn't see her. Now, going down the ridge, that's where the line of cedar trees started. Right.
Yeah, God, this is where I couldn't believe it, and I think this is where you're wanting me to take over.
Yeah.
So then you went back to the vehicle again and started, I started down past the fallen down, the cut down cedar pile, and I start walking down, and it's more prairie, but it's downhill, and I found out later that it's downhill because it heads towards the dry creek bed, and that's later in the story. But get a little further and start hitting the line of cedars along the dry creek bed, and they're probably 3 or 4 or 5 cedars deep before the creek bed. Well, probably the first or second cedar that I walk by, I'm walking, I'm looking right, I'm looking left, I'm looking, whoa, I literally did a double take, and I went, there she is, and I took 1 left step back to turn left and raised my rifle, and she was underneath a cedar that was obviously a bedding spot for the animals, and she jumped up and ran off again. I mean, I ran around that cedar. I lifted up my gun, and I tried to get my sight on her, and she ran off again through the cedars and down towards the creek bed. I said, "Oh my God, now what?" And you came and found me, and from there, I guess you take it back. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it was at this point, it was about, I don't know, 20 minutes to sundown, I guess, or so. So we're parked back there at the beginning of this was like a Sherwood Forest of cedars. Thinking, we got about 20 minutes of light left. We're like, oh, geez. And we know which direction she went. But this time we're like, where we thought previously that's like, there's no way, she's going to get up or go far. But she did it already twice, right? So now we're like, okay, well, shoot, we screwed up twice. So we should probably wait just a little longer. However, we get in here, even with flashlights, if we're going to get lost because it's pretty bad. So it's kind of one of those, kind of decisions that we make. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. God, amateurs here, amateur hour. We know where she was laying down. Well, let's go back and find the dang blood under the tree where she was laying down and restart our blood trail from there. And we'll use that, right?
We hadn't found blood up until that point.
Well, we hadn't found blood up to that point. But remember, we were like, well, let's go back to where you just spooked her up again.
Yeah, we talked about them. I think we talked about 5 or 6 different options.
Yeah, we did.
And finally found one that I was like, yeah, that actually makes sense. Let's go do that.
Yes, we went back and shoot, we found 3 drops under that tree, but they were fresh, so we knew we had something at least. So that was where we.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think just a quick side thing. I think that we both were. I even turned to you. I said, "Is it possible that she injured herself?
You scared her.
Shot?
Exactly.
Yeah. Did she turn too fast and pull a hammy?
Exactly. Twist an ankle or something.
Right.
Yeah, because at this point, anything could have been the case. After all this happened, and so
after her running twice, it was refreshing to actually find. It was literally like a quarter size, maybe a $50 size little splotch of blood, and that was it.
Right. So then when we saw that, that's when I was like, oh, okay, well, my eyes were not deceiving me when I saw you shoot her and what she did and all blah blah blah. So, maybe it was just a matter of not getting the critical area enough, to where she's able to live a little longer. So we sat there at that spot and we sat there and we were like, okay, which way did you see her go this time? This time. So let's mark that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it was like there was that, what was it, an oak tree or an elm or something that was right in the direction.
Maybe a tall mesquite that was just a little thin. Yeah, a little thinner.
Yeah, something. It's hard to tell from
the tallest tree in the Sherwood Forest.
Yeah. Yes. So that right there is the marker, right? So we use that as kind of the marker guide, and we decided that I would stay with the vehicle so that both of us wouldn't get lost in the forest, and Rich would go and use his instincts and light and whatever to find this doe. So you wanna
sure,
take it from there?
First off, yeah, absolutely. Immediately assured Jimmy that no matter where the deer ran, I would not turn back towards him.
Hey, hold on 1 second. Hey folks, do you want to level up your hunting game and gear? If so, join the hunt to get killer hunting tips and tricks that'll help you out in the field. Text the word bandit to 345-345 right now. And when you do, you'll even get access to some exclusive deals on the hunting gear and services we discuss right here on this podcast. Again, text the word bandit to 345-345 right now and join the hunt. That's right. I said, okay, if this doe gets up again, just remember what direction I am. So if you shoot her, shoot me.
We're just a joking point, but a very serious one in the same breath. I said,
judging by the past history of the doe getting up, it's like
exactly. Yeah. What if she gets up and runs towards Jimmy? Don't shoot. So I basically set out and started walking towards that tree, and I just did sort of a zigzag pattern. I didn't know what else to do. It was the first thing I thought of was, let me zig left and go as far left as I think I want to go. Because, all in all, I probably walked a good 1.5 miles in all, maybe even more. When it was all said and done, it was a good 20 minutes. It was about 7, maybe 5 till 7 when I started out.
Yeah.
And last light was 7:15. So it was about 20 minutes of searching because it was dark when you finally came and got me. But zigzag pattern, far left as I thought I could go. more of a diamond pattern, I guess. And then I went as far straight ahead as I wanted to go, sort of on an angle back towards the right. Long story short, back towards the far right, going past the creek bed. And then, I looked under every cedar. At this point, I got my flashlight out in my left hand. I've got my rifle on my right, pistol on my side. And I'm walking around trying to just any possible sign I could find, body shape or under a cedar that looks like a bedding spot. Nothing. I finally, all the way farthest right I want to go, and it's a little thicker in there. I come through all the thick stuff, and there's the creek bed. So I said, all right, I'm going to work my way along the creek bed back towards Jimmy, and this is it. We're not going to find this deer. And I was a little distraught about it. I was upset, and I'm walking along the creek bed just doing the same thing. And sure enough, I just happened to flash to the right, and I'm almost back to the same spot where Jimmy is. He's like maybe 20, 30 yards into the Sherwood Forest back behind me. And I look to my right along the creek bed, and there she is. She's underneath a bedded spot for under a cedar, and she's just laying there breathing and looking at me. And that was it. Found her, and I think the first thing I said was, "Oh yeah."
You did. I was like, what?
Yeah, you're like, what? I'm like, I got her.
And then that's when I had the wave of relief come over me, like, yes.
Right. And so, just did the humane thing and dispatched her and guided Jimmy in, and we picked her up, and that's why Jimmy ate a deer heart tonight, huh?
That's right. And, at this point, it was pitch black. So the only way I could even find him, was the faint look of his flashlight through some of the cedar, there. So let me tell you, it would be easy to get swallowed up by that forest in the middle of the night.
Well, I'll tell you, it is crazy, absolutely crazy that with with the lack of blood and everything else, that y'all were still able to find her. And that is crazy. But man, sometimes it pays to be lucky.
Well, lucky, but persistence also.
Yeah, for sure.
It's tough when that happens, right? Because there are times, you get to a point where it's like, well, when do you call off the search, as they say, or whatever, Luckily, we still had. It was still kind of early, even though when he found it, it was pitch black. But we had been searching. So, I guess we would have felt obviously horrible if we called off the search and didn't find her. We were so relieved when we did find her. But it happens to where you just don't know. Sometimes it's like we just got to stop looking. And I remember saying something to the effect of making some comment of like, well, I'll just go about like 50 yards. This is the last part or whatever. And I said, and it's entirely possible she's 52 yards away, but at some point you gotta just know your own boundaries,
Well, honestly, if I'd have just gone straight to the spot, it probably was do you remember how far you drove?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was not far. Like as the crow flies, it was probably 25 yards.
25 yards. I was gonna say 50, but it wasn't far. For you to get to me once I called you over. So
right.
All right. Well, Rich, tell everybody where you ended up hitting her.
So
that's the crazy part of the whole thing.
I'm only stalling here, but we didn't really find out until we got back to camp where I actually had wounded her. And
so in the autopsy, what did it say?
Well, I'm stalling again, but because my buddy Dave, who I mentioned earlier in the podcast, has also done this on a deer in South Texas, and I witnessed it and gave him holy hell for a very long time. Well, unfortunately, I now have done the same thing, which is I've now shot a deer in the ass.
Yeah, it happens. It's interesting because she was going left to right, crossing the road, and you're right-handed. So
it is. Well, I'm sure I just jerked the rifle, jerked the trigger. I wasn't in the most comfortable position being, in the ATV and, the shot downhill. And I'm positive my rifle, I know you're probably thinking out there, what about your rifle? Was it sighted in? This rifle has not ever been touched, and I've always been right, in the middle of the paper whenever I do test it. So I am positive it hasn't been dropped or anything like that. It's accurate. So
yeah.
It's just one of those things, they were moving. And I mean, we talked about it earlier, Jimmy, right? I mean, they were all over the damn place. We couldn't keep up with them. The minute we'd see them, they were off. There was a buck right behind every single doe.
Yep.
And, so I think that there was a little bit of added pressure, and pressure sometimes you don't necessarily perform exactly as you normally would. So I shot her in the ass.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Ass happens. But now, what I learned here though was and I've mulled this over in my head, and I look back on it and I think, I put all those points together where I saw what she did. I didn't see, out of the 4, I only saw 3 walk off, all those things. And I thought, yeah, it's easy to say in hindsight that maybe we should have waited a little longer just because we didn't actually see the body hit the ground. But, I don't know that I'm going to really beat myself up too much on this one, because I just, I don't know. What do you think, Corn Bandit?
No, I mean, guys,
I got plenty of other ones to beat myself up on. As an example, just real quick, I did guide Rich on a doe. I mean, on a fawn for a couple of years ago, I think it was. I did beat myself up on that one, but this one, after reconsidering it,
Yeah, it's not easy, and even when even when the deer is not, doesn't even know you're there, you hear the stories about, the deer took a step or he turned to the last second, and I think the real thing to take from this story is just to is persistence. Keep up with it, have a plan, but probably most importantly, don't rush it, And so, and I guess the other thing is always keep a flashlight with you. I remember last year when our good buddy Tyson shot a probably 2.5-year-old spike. He was pretty old. He shoots a 7mm, and he blasted this thing from about 80 yards, and it opened up a wound in the chest of this deer that was bigger than a cantaloupe. And this thing ran for well over a quarter mile. I've never seen anything like it. And thankfully we had the flashlight and not just cell phones to follow. So
yeah, we actually recounted that story in episode.
We did last year.
See, I'm looking it up here. What episode number was that? It was a good episode. It was a good one. Just trying to find it here for people to go back and reference.
Yeah, I think for me, while he's looking at that, I'll just say for me, as only like 12, 13 year, Richard, I think you were the one who introduced me to hunting 12, 13, 14 years ago. I mean, that was a coming of age for me personally, having to track a deer that way, that long. And like you said, patience and persistence and finally getting it is probably the biggest relief I've ever had as a hunter. I've shot bucks, I've shot axis. I had a trophy above my mantelpiece, axis buck that I shot safari hunting with Dave. That is amazing animal. I've never been more relieved than actually finding this little devil.
Sure.
Oh yeah. Great feeling, right? And carry a flashlight, carry a rifle with you when you're looking for the deer, because even a 45. I didn't have my rifle with me either, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
That's true.
So carry your rifle with you to go after the deer, even if you've got a sidearm. I think we assumed there, and that was bad.
Where legal, don't forget about that. During bow season. Now I think this may have changed, but during bow season you cannot have a pistol with you, even to dispatch a deer. Now again, I think that's changed because the state of Texas is smart, not dumb like some of the other states. But yeah. there's that little factoid. But yeah, I mean, if you can't carry a pistol, take your rifle with you. But one thing I always do, and I do this when I'm approaching a deer anyway, I will dial my scope down from 12 to like 5. That way, if it does get up, it's so close, it's not. You can actually see anatomy, and you're not looking just at fur. If you have to pull the trigger again.
Yep. And that other podcast that we did that about Tyson's deer was all the way back to episode 12.
Oh, no
believe
kidding.
it or not. And on that show notes page, we have some good pictures of that deer. And let me tell you, the fact that deer actually ran is absolutely unbelievable.
Go check it out.
Yeah.
It's actually
I'll put a link to that in these show notes.
Oh, for sure.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it goes to show. I mean, a wound like that, they can still run.
Yes.
So it's
Yep.
it happens. But yeah, I mean, it was a good learning experience. It was a fun experience. Of course, it was made a lot more fun the fact that we found her.
Yes.
And it made the beer drinking after that fact, much more smoother and flow.
I
a
can
lot.
vouch for that. My God.
But no, it was fun. It was a great time.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It was fun.
All right, well, let's go make some more memories in the field, shall we?
yes, let's do it. So, all right. You got anything else to? Hey, thank you, Rich, for coming on and telling us your story, your horror story that ended amazingly well.
Well, thank you, and hopefully in the future I can come back with a better story than an ass shot. Yeah, but it was still a good story. Hopefully build off of that, and like you said, Richard, more memories ahead. Thanks, guys.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on, buddy.
So, Spitz, you got anything else to share with the folks before we sign off?
I mean, this Saturday, opening day of duck season, and it could not be better. We've got a bunch of ducks in town already, and we have got our Arctic blast on the way. So that it's supposed to hit us in Dallas
Thursday,
on
right?
Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, no. What we got coming in here is a front, but this dude that's coming in behind it is an actual Arctic blast. They're talking 40.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah,
hot.
sure enough.
So
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so that is going to blow a lot of birds down. So I'm pretty pumped for Saturday morning.
All right.
We'll see. So I and I'm due. After last year, I struck out. I think it was 8 times in a row. 8 times. So we'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully you get your limit. You know what? I'd be curious to hear, folks out there, if you're listening. What would you have done anything differently than what Rich and I did in this scenario? How do you handle a deer that acts like this and things like that happen? Please let us know. Shoot us an email at howdy@feedbandit.com, and we'd love to hear from you. Tell us if we were just rank amateurs, idiots, or did what you would have done. We'd love to hear it either way. So
Idiots.
idiots.
You sound like your wife. I love it.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, with that, everyone out there, continue having a great deer season, and we will catch you on the next episode of the Feed Bandit Podcast. Thanks for listening to the Feed Bandit Podcast. Just a reminder to text the word bandit to 345-345. And when you do, you'll join our email list where we'll send killer deals on innovative hunting products and services, along with entertaining tips and tricks straight to your inbox. You don't want to miss out. So again, text the word bandit to 345-345, and we look forward to seeing you on the hunt. Until next time, have a good one, and remember to support your local feed store.